Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty RoundTable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. No doubt starts now. This is the broadcast for July the 22nd in the year of our Lord 2025. Our goal always to protect life, liberty, and property, to promote God, family, and country, to do so on your radio in the traditions of our founding fathers. Yes, indeed, we use the blueprint for liberty, the supreme law of the land, the Constitution for the United States of America. It's got incredible checks and balances, ladies and gentlemen, that if we can use at our fingertips today, we can peacefully restore the republic. As you know, we reject revolution and stand for peaceful restoration of the greatest country on the face of the earth. Sheriff Richard Mack, back with me. Welcome, sir.
Thanks so much, Sam. It's great to be with you this beautiful Tuesday morning.
Amen to that. And I got to just talk to you about this cool story that I did yesterday, but I just want to get your take on it because I know you love this kind of stuff. Ready?
Yeah.
On July the 20th, which was Sunday, so 2 days ago, 1903. It's a this day of history thing. So in 1903, I guess there was a Chicago dentist. His name is Ernst Fenning. He purchased the first Model A automobile from the Ford Motor Company for $850, sir.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that is. That's great. Yeah.
Let me tell you something else. 1903.
1903.
Now listen carefully. That's the Model A now. The Model T, I guess they say the sale of this car to this dentist initiated Ford's path to success, with the company selling 250 cars within the first 2 months and 1,000 cars that year. Then, I guess the advent of the Model T in 1908, which it's what they call its innovative assembly line, made automobiles affordable for everybody and kind of changed the game of our society and culture. I kind of find that fascinating. So 1903 and then 1908 is really when the car kicked off. Ford did something else interesting at that time that I thought you'd be interested in. He introduced what's called the $5 workday wage. It wasn't a minimum wage by government. It was just Henry Ford felt like, hey, we're doing well. Why shouldn't my employees do well? So it was 62.5 an hour, because he also reduced the work week or work day from 9 hours to 8 hours a day. Paid them $5 per day, 62.5 per hour. Interestingly enough, Sheriff, if you take the price of silver right now, which is about $35 an ounce, I know it fluctuates. Don't call me and tell me different, guys. I know. I'm just saying. If you times that by 35, you get a $21 an hour working comparative wage. He set that without government involvement. Isn't that incredible?
That is. That's amazing. But and I have to tell you though, in all honesty, full disclosure here, I'd rather have a F-150 or a Mustang from Ford Motor Company.
Yeah, but come on, you can't put yourself in hindsight when we got these killer muscle cars and they've had 50 years to work on them. You got to step back and go, you know what? That thing in the day was novel. And what a game changer it's become, right?
Yeah, it is novel, and it is the beginning of the new age of transportation. And what transportation did for the American family was that it freed them up to do other things than just all day long trying to get food on the table for the family.
Yeah, or going to the hardware store was a half a day plus event, whereas now, boom,
Well, yeah, it is such an amazing part of American history, and I absolutely love, I love American history and history in general.
And that's why I know you love cars, too. That's why I brought it up. So listen, how fast do you think the first Model A went, Sheriff? Do you remember? Do you know? I know you weren't there.
About 20 miles an hour, about 20,
yeah, they said it went up to 30
miles
miles per hour, this one, because they had some cars before that were individually built. This was like the first stuff like coming off the assembly line that was like changing the game. Instead of building a custom car, every one of them, it was more like, hey, this is the Model A, this is the Model T, this is the 357, whatever, right? Anyway, very, very fascinating, and I really find it interesting that with that incredible capitalistic type success. He didn't need government to set a minimum wage. Here's what he said. I need my employees not to have high turnover. That's more expensive than paying them well. That was number one. And number two, he said, hey, I need them to be able to make enough money to buy one of my cars. Because these cars should be for everybody. And if they're out of reach of my employees, then I'm not accomplishing what. Anyway, it's a historical, it's incredible. Introduce our guest, and we'll get our guest's take on that. And then I went to a concert I want to tell you about.
Wow. Okay. Well, yes, today we have an amazing guest. He's from North Dakota, Minot, spelled M-I-N-O-T, Minot, North Dakota. And he's quite the amazing candidate because his website is Constitutional Mayor. I mean, that's his website, Constitutional Mayor. And he's running for mayor in that city. He's new at running, but he's not new at politics. He's followed it since he was a young boy, and I'm really taken with him and his candidacy. And I'm going to go out next week and campaign for him. And so I'm leaving. As you know, I'm going to Florida for the sheriff's convention there, the Florida Sheriff's Association convention. And I'll participate in that and speak for 2.5 minutes at their breakfast on the 27th. And then on the 28th, I'm heading out to Minot, North Dakota. So his name is Josiah Roise. Has no relation to the car. And Josiah is dedicating his life to the Constitution, and he's running for mayor to restore the principles of American ideals to his hometown of Minot, North Dakota. And Josiah, thank you for running, and thank you so much for being here today on the Liberty Roundtable.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm honored to be on with some fellow patriots.
What do you think about the 1903 car historical reality? That's pretty cool, huh?
It is. In fact, it triggered, well, it's kind of funny. I keep making the same points when I'm going around campaigning, talking about, minimizing government activity. I make reference to the Wright brothers, in their first flight.
Amen.
Because, today, our government is so authoritative, and it's so like, well, we're in control of you for your safety. And I'm a construction company owner, and that's been my background for the last, I've been doing it since I was a kid in high school working for family. And the government representatives that'll come and say, oh, here, you don't know how to use a ladder right. You can't use the top 2 steps. You can't do all those things. Can you imagine Thomas Edison or the Wright brothers being able to accomplish what they did? Well, there's some government guy over their shoulder who has no idea how to do what they're doing, but says, I don't approve. I don't approve of you doing this way, and you're going to have to do it my way.
Emojis. It reminds me of those emojis and stuff like that where it's like Noah's Ark. And Noah's just sitting over there just in tears, doesn't know what to do. And, they come over and ask him what's up. And it's like, this government red tape, I just can't possibly, God, I just cannot get the ark built, sir. I don't know what to tell you. I just, it's kind of like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's these government guys, it's like I keep on asking people, because I'm sure it's no surprise to you two that a lot of people are responding to this constitutional platform saying, like, they're intimidated by it. They don't they're not comfortable with it because they truly don't know what it means. But when they ask about these things, I ask them to ask themselves, how much does the government help you? Like when your neighbor wants a roof, and you know how to do roofs, and he'll give you money and you do the roof. How much help did you need from the government? You got to get a contractor's license. You got to get a builder's permit. You got to get all these things, and then in the end, you end up paying them a middleman fee. How much did they help you? They didn't help you at all. They didn't actually make sure anybody was safe. They didn't do jack squat. So it's, I'm kind of having to, it's going to sound arrogant, but teach people how to think, because they don't bother to.
It's something we certainly need more of, and constitutionalmayor.com. Hey, when I hear that kind of a website, I'm thinking this is, my kind of guy. So let me ask you some questions about this. I went to a concert, and I went to the Keith Urban concert Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a great concert. I mean, it was really good. The amount of talent that guy's got is just something. And you're thinking, well, why are you bringing this up, Sam? Well, because here's what happened. When we went there, well, the only kind of water they had was liquid death, first of all. Go ahead and skip the break. All they had was liquid death for water. And so I'm just like, man, I don't want everybody in the arena drinking liquid death. But anyway, that's the deal. That's how they do it these days. And sadly, the water, can of water looks like a can of beer kind of or whatever. It's, anyway. So they get me my water.
Definitely
it's
does.
$7 for a can of water. And I'm going, whoa. People, come on now. I mean, there's 4 of us, like $30 just to have some water. Anyway, we get Black Death and drink this water. But when they hand us the can, they opened every single can before they handed it to us. And we're kind of like, what the heck are you doing, man? We want to open our own can when we get up there so our can's easier to carry. Anyway, we don't want it open because now you got to start drinking it right now. Anyway, so we asked them, I said, what the heck is up with this? What are you guys doing? They said, we have to. It's a rule now in all concerts because you've had people, fans, taking these full drinks and throwing them at the artists and stuff. And so we have to open them because if you do that, then most of the water will spill out along the way and your trajectory or your trajectile, whatever you want to call it, projectile, won't be near as effective if we open it first. And so we're so sorry, but this is the new rule because of the behavior of the citizens.
For heaven's
The reason
sake.
the reason that I bring this all up is because I want to talk to a constitutional mayor about this. I want to just riot. I get that you aren't supposed to throw things at artists or throw things at anybody. For that matter, you learn that when you're like 3 or 4, whatever, okay? At 2, hey, don't throw stuff. But this is really a thing, and it's really changed our lives. Now every one of us have these 4 cans that are open. Now we're trying to carry all of our stuff. It's just like, oh, my heavens. So the whole point that I'm getting at is, what does a constitutional mayor do about that in their city? I don't know who made the rule, if it's like locally made or if it's made by the concert, venue people or anyway, just very strange indeed. And I haven't even had time to dig into it. I just got kind of mad and miffed when I first heard. I'm just like, what the heck? Anyway, help me, Mayor, with that kind of thought process first.
Well, I don't believe in punishing someone before a crime. I'm reminded of going into a courthouse, and they took a little. I'm a fan of Norse mythology and stuff, and some of the Marvel movies of the Thor character. So I've got this little miniature Thor hammer, the mighty Warhammer, just this tiny little thing on a keychain. It's solid, but it's tiny. And they told me at the courthouse, you got to go back to your car and put this away. You can't bring that in. I said, why not? And they said it's dangerous. And I said, only if I'm dangerous. And furthermore, here I'm putting my belt back on because I did what they said. I went and got rid of it, and I come back in, and they're still kind of giving me a hard time. And I said, this belt I'm putting back on would be way more dangerous if I wanted to strangle somebody with it. So if you want to throw liquid death at the artist and they open it for you, if you really want to throw something at the artist, you could throw your shoe or your girlfriend, however you do that. You might not get her back either.
So to me, it was baffling. But yet I do get, Sheriff Mack, let's throw you into this mix a little bit too. I get the problem, and the reason that we have so much government primarily is for things like this, where it's like, hey, if you can't be self-governed, we're going to have to do it for you. We've got this venue. We've got the artists to protect. We've got insurance on people. We've got all these things, and we have to minimize and I'm so sorry it's this way. So on one hand, I blame the venue. On the other hand, I blame them for taking my rights, and they're tyrannical and all that. I get it. At the same time, it's hard to say that people don't deserve what they get. Sheriff?
Well, regrettably, Sam, that's true, and I certainly hope it doesn't happen in Minot with this. I think people are starting to see that America is in trouble, and the reason we're in trouble is that we've drifted so far away from the foundational principles and the Constitution. And Josiah represents the actual philosophies that you and I have been talking about on this show, Sam, for 20, 25 years, 30, going on 30 probably now. And the thing of it is we must return to the foundation, to America's foundation, because if we do not, the foundation will go, which means the rest of the edifice will fall. And we're allowing this to happen. We're allowing this to take place. And now we have a courageous candidate in Minot, North Dakota, that's saying, look, the solution is simple. Let's get back to the Constitution. And everybody, part of the city, the people, the leaders, the public servants, we're all going to follow and enforce and obey the United States Constitution. What a great idea, what a great platform, and what a great opportunity for the people in Minot to be the example to the rest of the state. And there's other good people that are in the state. We've worked with one of the good sheriffs there, obviously, Sam, and that's Sheriff Frank Eberly, who's part of us.
Oh,
but
yeah.
There's others, and there's others. But I just want to congratulate and thank Josiah for running, and I really he has my entire and complete and undivided support.
All right, I want to talk about the platform a little bit because it's on the incredible website, constitutionalmayor.com. First one says decrease government, increase freedom. You believe that reducing the size and influence of government to return power back to the people, supporting policies that limit overreach and expand personal liberty. Our rights are not negotiable. So that's fascinating because when you do one, the other just almost happens automatically, right?
I would say so. It's just the balance of things. It's the teeter-totter effect. It's like when you have, and my opponents, all three of my opponents that I'm running against are currently on city council, and they've some been there a long time, some have been there for a shorter time, but and they're all in support of hiring 15 to 20 new police officers, expanding our government like that when our city is not growing. In fact, our population's gone down the last couple of years, and when they're proposing to just increase government, I'm like, you're proposing to decrease freedom. You're going to run people out of town with the taxes, because obviously something's got to pay for this. So I'm like, you're going to increase the size of government. You're going to increase the amount of taxes that locals are having to pay. It's like they're being punished for sticking around. Well, other people are leaving, and they're going, oh, yeah? You guys are leaving. You know what we're going to do to everyone else that's staying here? You're going to pay more, and you're going to be under more control, because I know I don't need to tell you two that when you hire that many more police officers to patrol, obviously they're going to have to justify their own existence. And so they're going to be nitpicking on seatbelt laws and tag lights, license plate lights, and weird things like that people don't even really think about so much. And all of a sudden it's going to become a whole issue for getting pulled over.
Sheriff?
Well, that's a good point, Sam, because the first thing that city councils want the police to do is be out there raising revenue. And Josiah is definitely touching on that and seeing that more cops, more tickets. And, the city council, we'll raise the money because all these officers will be out there writing tickets on the backs of the American people. And I, both of you know, that was one of the first things that really alarmed me about law enforcement. And it woke me up to the fact that we're not following the Constitution in this country or in this city and in this state. We're just following the traditional mainstream ways of raising money. And how do we raise money as law enforcement? Write the tickets. And I maintain that there is a way to get the support of the community to drive safely and increase the safety for everyone. But and we don't now. Sam, I think you remember my terminology for traffic tickets. It's taxation through citation. And Josiah is absolutely correct. If our population hasn't increased, why do we need so many more police? And are we going along with the national average? And how many deputies are there from the sheriff's office that are already doing the same thing? How much duplicity do we have? Why do we have police departments and sheriff's offices? And why don't we, if we elect the sheriff, why don't we elect the chief of police? And all these questions are there. And Josiah is bringing all of this up. And it's always on the backs of the taxpayers instead of true leadership, recognizing the problem and getting government off the backs of the people. This is what Josiah represents. And do you have anything to add to that, Josiah?
Yes, thank you, Sheriff. It's becoming increasingly so. Not just the taxes on the backs of them, but the constant increase of laws that nobody has to pass a test to know. And I mentioned yesterday on the show that we were on. There's over 20,000 federal laws. There's hundreds of state laws, and then dozens of city ordinances. And people might not be able to recite the Ten Commandments, but they think they're a law-abiding citizen, even though they haven't even had a chance to look. There's no requirement to look at these thousands and thousands of laws. And so you can just be caught, never mind just the taxes aspect of it, but it's like the psychological warfare of being in trouble. When you get pulled over, nobody has the mentality of, oh, good, a public servant's going to talk to me. I wonder what, we can do for each other. It's always, well, I'm in trouble for something. And then the questions they come to the window with, can be so antagonistic, and they're just fishing to get into more trouble and get you into more trouble.
Where are you coming from?
I'd like your feedback on that too.
Where are you coming from? Little later in the conversation. By the way, where are you going?
Yeah.
And they lace all these weird questions into. And at first, you could just say they're just trying to be polite and make conversation. So if you question them on it, they'll be like, I'm just trying to make conversations. No big deal. What they're really trying to do, though, Sheriff, is kind of frame or hedge their bets of what they're dealing with in literally investigation on all points of, on all of your senses, right? Sheriff, I mean, is that what happens?
Well, it is. And yeah, you brought up a real good point, Sam. So they stop you on a traffic stop, and the first thing, where are you coming from? Well, you stopped me to find out where I'm coming from? No, where are you going? You stopped me to ask me where I'm going? And you can see these, they're every day on YouTube, on the shorts, and all these people that get pulled over. And now people are exercising their rights and said, no, officer, I'm not showing you my ID. Not until you articulate what I did wrong. What is the probable cause for this stop? And that's why we have the CSPOA, so that we can train cops not to do these sort of things. Just treat people fairly and understand your role as a peace officer is to protect the rights of the people. And they have to know what those rights are first. And that's the type of leadership Minot's going to get with Josiah Roise. And so, Josiah, man, I've looked at your website, and I've got to ask you a question about this. Well, I'll ask you when we get back from.
Ask your question though when you repeat it when you get back. That way everybody can kind of be. All right, go ahead with your question.
Well, you say that I witnessed firsthand what happens when government forgets its place. I want you to be able to tell us what is the proper place for government.
All right, we'll do it in seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Liberty Roundtable Live. I wanted the audience to be able to think about the good sheriff's question. The question, folks, is to Josiah Roise, running for mayor in Minot. And I think it takes a little more than Minot to drive through there, but it's Minot, North Dakota. Constitutionalmayor.com. The broadcast continues in mere seconds on your radio.
Your daily Liberty News Wire. You're listening to Liberty News Radio.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. House Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan calling on a member of the team that prosecuted President Trump to come clean before his committee.
The Ohio Republicans sent the subpoena to Thomas Windham, former senior assistant special counsel who worked under then special counsel Jack Smith. Then Attorney General Merrick Garland had appointed Smith to lead the Justice Department's case around Mr. Trump's retention of classified documents. Windham previously sat with the House Judiciary panel on June 12th as part of Jordan's probe into efforts under the previous administration to investigate Mr. Trump. According to a letter from Jordan, Windham declined to answer some questions without authorization from the Justice Department. Jordan countered that such authorization was not necessary. Bernie Bennett in Washington.
House lawmakers leave D.C. in a couple of days for their weeks-long August recess. House Speaker Mike Johnson says there will be no vote on releasing Jeffrey Epstein files before the break. And Johnson notes that President Trump has already set the wheels in motion.
He wants all the credible files related to Epstein to be released. He's asked the Attorney General to request the grand jury files of the court. All of that is in process right now.
Democrats have been demanding release of the files, suggesting that they're playing politics. President Trump questions why they didn't release the documents themselves when they were in charge and had the ability to do so. This time it was several Ukrainian cities targeted overnight in Russian drone attacks. One child was killed, at least 24 people injured. The latest attacks come ahead of tomorrow's planned peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, which have so far shown little progress in ending the war. Stay hydrated and stay in the air conditioning if you can. The advice for tens of millions of Americans as extreme heat and high humidity grips much of the country. Watching Wall Street this hour, the Dow trading 72 points higher. More on these stories at townhall.com.
A couple years ago, I was in the bathroom at the airport when I dropped my smartphone in the toilet. Not smart. I was multitasking when I should have been focused on the job at hand. Embarrassing, but I'm not alone. According to Google, 7 million other multitaskers accidentally dropped their phones into the bowl last year. A gentle reminder that right now you can get yourself a brand new Samsung Galaxy A36 absolutely free with a $35 plan from Pure Talk. The A36 comes with scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass and a battery that'll last all day, along with unlimited talk, text, and data on America's most dependable 5G network. In other words, it's tough and smart. Something to think about next time you're multitasking in the necessary. Just dial pound 250, say keyword micro to get your free phone today. You can make the switch in just 10 minutes. That's pound 250. Say micro to switch to a no-nonsense smartphone and a company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
Step into the boots of the American West with Range Magazine, where grit meets grace. This is a front row seat to the stories, struggles, and triumphs of ranchers, farmers, and stewards of the land. From jaw-dropping photography to no-nonsense reporting, Range brings you the untold tales of life on the range. Whether you're a city dweller with a cowboy's heart or living life where the pavement ends, Range speaks to the soul of the West. Subscribe today at rangemagazine.com.
Cybercrime is exploding. Take Sarah from Sweet Delights, whose world crumbled after having to close with not being able to bounce back. Small businesses are prime targets, but the right strategies can keep yours safe. Jay Hill, CEO of Network Providers, has co-authored The Cyber Playbook Simplifies Cybersecurity for Business Owners with Strategies to avoid costly breaches and fines. Build a strong cyber attack response. Secure your business with key protections. Cyber threats aren't slowing down, but you can stay ahead. Protect your business. Ensure its security for tomorrow. Get the Cyber Playbook today at networkprovidersinc.com/cyber-playbook or call 385-446-5500 now.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Liberty Roundtable, and you are on live Liberty News Radio, folks. Thanks so much for being with us, and we have an amazing guest today, a candidate from Minot, North Dakota. And right before the break, I asked about your assertion on your website, Josiah, that I saw firsthand what happens when government forgets its place. What is the proper place, and what were you talking about? Was that the subterfuge and the crazy things going on during COVID-19 and all the mandates? I think that's what you were talking about. Is that right? Explain that.
In a general sense, that's what I'm referring to. However, I've seen it from a much younger age, and it's like I was a teenager when I was asking all the hard questions, some of those questions that, Sheriff Mack was referring to earlier about why these things are enforced, if they're unconstitutional and stuff, and how do we get here. But COVID 2020 shutdown was just a wake-up call that other people finally cared and were paying attention. So it's like I already knew that our rights were being suppressed, but then people that thought, maybe when I tried to talk to them about it, that you just had bad experiences, or you've had bad luck with cops, or you're just nitpicking, or these are laws that make sense, like seatbelts and stuff, so you shouldn't worry about it. And then 2020 happened, and people started to go, okay, maybe you have a point, about government overreach. So the role of government, my father drilled it into me pretty hard at a young age that the role of government, we hear about all these subsidy programs and all these, financial benefit programs and stuff. And my dad would always say, it's not the role of government. It's not that these things aren't well intended. It's not that these things didn't have a reason. It's just not their job. It's not the role of government. And so the role of government, from my dad's upbringing, what he passed on to me was that the role of government is very minimal. It's, for the most part, it's just infrastructure and security. And it's not security protecting us against ourselves. The job of a policeman is not to make sure that my shoe's tied, or that I got a helmet on, or that I got my seatbelt on, or anything of that nature, because that's not a public issue.
Or you took your vitamins this morning and you're eating your vegetables.
Yeah. Or my vaccine, or I'm wearing a mask.
Yeah.
I think the mask is what really got a lot of people upset. The mask, before the vaccines, but I knew day one of the COVID shutdown, as soon as I heard about it, when I got the phone call, it was because I had to shut down my business. I owned a fitness business aside from my construction company. I had a business partner in the fitness studio, and when she called and said, we have to shut down, I said, I'm not shutting down. And she said, well, the governor said so. I said, I don't care. But then she said, well, all of our employees are not going to, they're all scared and they're not going with it. And I said, oh, come on, this is fake. I said, this is about the election. This is so they can do, and I came up with mail-in ballots right on the spot. I said, this is so that we can't go to the voting polls, and they're going to have to say that we have to mail it in or some nonsense. So it's like, when you know what the enemy's goal is, when you're playing chess, you know that your opponent is coming after your king. So you don't have to actually, be told by your opponent what it is they're trying to do. Because people say, oh, it's 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Or you live through that philosophy throughout all of these issues, all these breaches of the Constitution. What are they trying to do? They're coming for your king. And so when you recognize that, you learn, just like on a chessboard, you can kind of start to see your pattern, your opponent's pattern, what they're trying to do. And then it becomes predictable. You know what their next move is. So for 2020 through 2023, all the way through, I kept on with the I told you so game, amongst my friends and family. It's like everything's unfolding exactly like I said, as though I planned it. But that's just because I know they're coming for my king.
Well, one of the statements on your website is to restore common law and common sense. And I think that's really pretty easy when you talk about these different edicts and mandates and whatever they are, they're not law. They're certainly not common law, and there's far away as you can get from common sense, sir.
Oh, yes. Well, yes, and like I said earlier about there being over 20,000 laws and stuff to enforce, it's like, who can possibly accommodate all that? I just went to court recently with a state legislator that was being she was going there to fight a ticket from the Game and Fish Department. She and her husband were out on their inflatable flotation devices on the lake, on the 4th of July. And on an inflatable tube thing, but they had paddles, because they blew them up, they inflated them themselves, and then they just went for a little paddle on the lake. And Game and Fish came and cited them both for not having life jackets on while they're on. You can go for a swim. You can go swim all the way across the lake if you want, but you can't go across the lake on an inflatable flotation device without wearing a flotation device. So I went to court with her. She was trying to fight that. And the funny thing was, the judge, the prosecutor, the courtroom was silent for a good 5 minutes because since she challenged it, which doesn't usually happen, they got these books out, these books thicker than the Bible, and they're going through this. And I leaned over to her and I said, look at this nonsense. If it was a sensible law, would we have to dig through a 3,000-page book to find it so the judge can go, oh, nope, you're guilty. See, it says right here. So, never mind your argument. It's null and void.
And this is where I think Sheriff Mack being sheriff and where you being mayor kind of really relates to this on the common sense point of view. You can put signs up and say, hey, guys, it's always really good to wear a life jacket whenever you're out in the water, highly recommended or whatever. You can put surveys show or, experience shows or you can have all these. It's good to advocate for the right things. It's when you cross the law and make it a law and tie fines to it, Sheriff, let's have you start there, that really kind of, in my opinion, introduces the problem. They're not just trying to make us, or, encourage us to make choices that are good for our health. And I'm all fine with those encouragements and guidelines and reminders and recommendations. But when you start to mandate and then put that stick and carrot and tie my finances to it, you start thinking Declaration of Independence. You start thinking, hey, these people are eating out my substance. These people are harassing me. These people are, it isn't about trying to help me be good and safe. We've gone beyond that. It's a control thing. Sheriff?
Yeah, it really is. And Josiah is absolutely correct that the thousands and 20,000 laws from the federal government. No, there's over 20,000 gun control laws in America. Over 20,000 just to regulate gun ownership from law-abiding citizens. And that's how ridiculous this is, because the federal government has absolutely no skin in the game whatsoever. They don't have permission to do gun control, yet they can hire and establish a bureaucracy known as the BATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, and they can monitor all the gun shops and all the gun owners in this country when gun control has been already established as being against the law. So, yeah, it's millions of laws from the federal government and regulations. Heck, there's probably just from the EPA and FDA alone, there's probably hundreds of thousands right there. My question, Josiah, is did she win or did she lose, and did she have to go to a appellate court?
Oh, she lost. And another funny thing about her and myself and others that have tried taking these things to a higher court, and I can't quote for you exactly how they respond right now.
I just got to ask this question. Did she bring her life jacket to court? Because she should have.
I did my best to bite my tongue on the way out. I wanted to, the witnesses, that were there, the Border Patrol agents, or sorry, not Border Patrol, the Game and Fish agents that it dished out the tickets. I wanted to invite them on the way out and say, hey, I'm going for a swim later. You want to come with me and make sure I'll be okay? Like come make sure. Come watch me like a hawk. But no, she did not win. And as far as getting it to a higher court, I've tried taking things like this to a higher court, and they say, oh, well, because it's not a criminal matter, there is no appeal process. This is it. Doors closed, you lose.
Oh,
Well, there is a
if it's not a
modicum
civil
of
matter,
good
then
news,
why are we
Sheriff
here?
Mack. There is a good modicum of good news, though, Sheriff Mack. Christy Nome says U.S. travelers are no longer required to remove their shoes in order to board an airplane, and they're thinking about possibly not controlling your water. You'll be able to have liquid.
Not throwing
Let's
all
go
my
ahead and-
water.
Let's go ahead and skip the break. You're allowed to keep your water, I think, going forward. They're really thinking hard about that.
Wow. Well,
Now you got,
when we have to ask Mother May I to wear our shoes or take them off before we get on a plane, and that's all controlled by the federal government, doesn't that kind of sound just a little bit stupid and overreach and ridiculous? We need the United States federal government to tell us how we take our shoes off before we get inspected and frisked and photographed and x-rayed before we get on a plane. And that's all up to the federal government. That's why we need the federal government. Josiah is absolutely correct. We have got to know the proper role of government. And this whole thing, what Josiah was alluding to, that government believes it's here to take care of us, to make sure we wear a mask, to make sure, arrest those people in that line. They're only 2 feet apart, and they have to be 6 feet apart. And, Josiah's not going to.
and there's no law that says they have to be 6 feet apart, and science doesn't show they have to be 6 feet apart, but they spin the lie and perpetuate the crime nevertheless. Daniel McAdams wrote a column about the TSA and basically said, what would Americans like to see? The end of the TSA altogether. Have a look at the Constitution and completely disengage from the business of federal government regulation of travel. And I think that's really where it kind of is. And we've allowed this ticky-tack stuff to happen at the airports first, and now it's trickling to every element of your society. Mayor?
Oh yes, no, it definitely is, and I like the way that Sheriff Mack put it when he said the government's got no skin in the game, because that's exactly what I've been telling people lately about these things. Because they say, well, aren't these things sensible? And it goes to OSHA regulations, it goes to all these different safety protocols. For example, if I fall off my ladder, fall off a roof, and I get hurt, I can't sue the government because they weren't there to make sure that I was doing things right. I can't sue OSHA. I can't sue the city government because you let me operate on this building without a permit. And if I had that permit, then I wouldn't have fallen. I wouldn't have gotten hurt. It doesn't work that way. So since they have absolutely no skin in the game, they have no authority. And so when people talk about, well, what about this? What about that? I said that's between a contractor and his insurance company. Those are the issues. It has nothing to do with the city because the city can't be in trouble. But what really needs to stop, as I've been telling the local voters and stuff around here, is the government likes to punish for profit. Now that's a conflict of interest, because if they can come along and say, hey, you didn't do this or do that, well, if you're just telling me, like you said, sir, if you want to make a recommendation all day long, that's fine. But when they come over and they say, hey, you didn't exercise the safety protocol, now I'm writing you a bill for $500. Well, you're incentivized for me to violate your protocols, not my protocols, your protocols, because you'll bill me if I don't do it right. So they actually watch with binoculars. My brother's company's been caught with OSHA reps watching with binoculars from very far away, watching their guys work, waiting for them to slip up and do something.
Sheriff?
Absolutely. This absolutely absurd. Government looking over our shoulders. And this is back to what Sam was saying earlier. They have to justify their existence. And now the federal government, the FDA and USDA don't have enough to do. So now they go after Amish farmers across the country who refuse and just religiously don't pasteurize their milk. And so Sam and I have been very involved in that, trying to defend Amish farmers because they're so docile and peaceful and submissive that they don't defend themselves. The earth people. They are wonderful people. And I've been in touch lately, Sam, with Sam Gerard.
Oh, good.
He was just so you know, Josiah, he was a Amish farmer from Bath County, Kentucky, and he got 6 years in prison because he didn't get permission from the FDA to make a salve, a lotion out of chickweed. And as you probably know, first of all, I never knew what chickweed was until I went there and got to know him. But chickweed is not a controlled substance, and that's another thing, that you alluded to earlier. Like, the government's here to protect us from our own appetites, our own addictions, and our own stupidity, and thus we have the drug war. And how successful has the drug war been? Look, I'm a former undercover cop, but what we've been doing to get rid of drugs has failed and failed miserably. And I'm not saying what we well, I think I have some other solutions, but the solution is getting the community, first of all, and law enforcement to recognize that what we've been doing has failed, and let's come up with other solutions and possibilities where government doesn't have to spend $150 billion a year to protect us from a problem that they have made worse. And so, anyway, Josiah, how much time do we have left, Sam?
Josiah Roise with us, ladies and gentlemen. He's running for mayor in Minot, North Dakota.
Minot.
All right. I'm just thinking it's like a minute. It's a minute.
Yeah.
All right.
Minot. Why not Minot?
All right. Then it's constitutionalmayor.com, ladies and gentlemen. That's Constitutional Mayor. And I want to bounce something off you guys interesting. They say that Guantanamo Bay has no due process. And it's a big discussion going on now because they're saying, hey, no new process at Gitmo. And Judge Andrew Napolitano writes the piece, and he highlights that the Bush administration said that because the prison was in Cuba, federal laws did not apply. The U.S. Constitution did not apply, and federal judges could not interfere. However, in 5 different landmark cases, the Bush administration was proven wrong. This is a remarkable lesson to be learned, Judge Napolitano writes. He says instead of cutting holes in the Constitution, follow it. Instead of using torture, use acceptable investigative techniques. Wow. Instead of, hey, violating our laws, why don't you stick with things that have worked for hundreds of years? And he really brings out this reality of we're starting to see no due process anywhere, unless you're kind of like a Hillary Clinton or somebody. But for us, Mayor, really no due process. How can a mayor change that narrative?
Ooh. Well, first off is knowing about it. Because if it's not broke, don't fix it. That would be most people's mentality. So a lot of people just haven't run into it yet. They haven't gone to court. But Sheriff Mack, yesterday you mentioned that how many times have you heard from a judge when they say that the Constitution doesn't apply in my courtroom? I had that happen myself as I was representing myself. A high point of contention in this election races, people are saying, oh, this is Josiah Roise. He's a trouble guy, though. He's been arrested many times. It's like, I've been running on that. Yes, I've been arrested many times for constitutionally protected activity. I've been arrested for the First Amendment, for exercising the Second Amendment. I've been arrested for trying to protect my Fourth Amendment. I've been arrested for the Fifth Amendment. I've been arrested so many times for constitutional rights and then stand in front of the judge and say, hey, I was just exercising my Fifth Amendment. And he goes, that doesn't apply in my courtroom. And so
well, don't forget,
the biggest issue is
you're in good company because Martin Luther King was arrested over 30 times. Martin Luther King never committed a crime, and I don't believe that you have either. But there again, they go after people instead of doing the protection thing that is the proper role of government, protecting my God-given rights as detailed in the Constitution. Martin Luther King arrested over 30 times. And you and President Trump, likewise.
Oh, yes. And then even the greatest example, Jesus Christ.
Well,
what was he arrested for? First Amendment, really. I mean, I know they didn't have the First Amendment over there, but you get my point. He was arrested for
still a God-given
his speech.
Right.
People didn't like what he was saying.
Correct. Yes. And
they were threatened by his speech.
We have a wonderful opportunity to return Minot, North Dakota, to the Constitution. It's not dangerous. It's not mean. It's not unsafe. It's the foundation of America, and making excuses as to why we shouldn't follow the Constitution is, I think, there's the real blasphemy right there. And it's absolutely astonishing how many politicians in this country stray away from the Constitution and act like they're smarter than the Founding Fathers, and have different plans and policies and programs that will be better than the Constitution. That's all a lie.
And conflict with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So,
and my supposedly conservative opponent even told me that my ideas are about constitutional restoration are way out there, and I said the Constitution should not be controversial to a conservative.
That's absolutely.
And I guess my response is, what does way out there mean?
Yeah.
No kidding. It's such a vague claim. In fact, what I should have said is it's not way out there. It's way back there. It's way back in our roots. It's way back in our history, and that's what we need to go back to.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have left it behind.
The solution is behind us. It's in our history. It's going back, not moving forward, going back to the Constitution and those foundation principles. Yeah, absolutely. So, anyway, we've only got a few minutes left. In fact, maybe just a couple. Why don't you tell the American people and the people of Minot really why you're running and what you plan to do? What's your purpose to be the mayor of Minot?
My purpose in being the mayor of Minot, Minot was deemed the Magic City a long time ago. There's controversy as to why it got that name. I won't get into the different options and stuff right now, but I think the real magic of Minot, for me, especially being born and raised here, growing up here, it's the people, and that's become kind of a cliche that my opponents are copying too, but it really is. It's never been in the policies. It's never been, in how much money Minot's pulling in for, from oil or things like that. That's not the magic. The magic is in the people. I'll make a quick example. When there's a crisis, like a flood, 14 years ago, the community pulled together. 13,000 people were moved out of their homes, and only 300 ended up in any shelters. There wasn't a hotel anywhere in town because it was all taken up from the oil boom. People opened up their homes to their neighbors, to people they didn't even know, and let them stay with them when the city was flooded. And there wasn't a crime issue. There wasn't a violence issue and all that. It's like the people are magical here. It's a good, godly community, and I seek to defend and uphold their rights because I see how they're being trampled by our local law enforcement, who is I always knew was corrupt and has only recently been caught with their pants down a few bad things lately. And so now that the people are aware of this corruption, I'm seeking to bring an end to that corruption. I think right now the people are looking for what can we do to not have these issues again, as the chief of police was just investigated and removed. And it's like, well, now it's time for you guys to choose the head of law enforcement. We already elect the sheriff. He already has jurisdiction over all of town. He's the go-to guy. He's going to be the only guy in charge of law enforcement in town, so you know who to thank and who to blame.
And that person, thank the heavens, is elected by we the people. What an incredible opportunity. How about a constitutional mayor? How do we get other mayors to run around the country taking a page out of the playbook, ladies and gentlemen, of Josiah Roise, running for mayor in, what is it, Minot?
Minot, North Dakota.
North Dakota, ladies and gentlemen. Constitutionalmayor.com to learn how it's done. Thank you, Josiah.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sheriff.
God bless you, sir, and God bless your campaign. Sheriff Mack, stay there. We got another hour. I got some hardcore questions for you based on Tulsi Gabbard and a few other interesting tidbits, Michael Flynn and others. Hang tight. God save our republic.